there are some phone calls you never forget. Not because of what was said, but because of how they shatter your sense of peace, leaving you with a question that haunts you long after. Why didn't I see it sooner? 3 weeks ago, on a Tuesday afternoon, my wife, Eleanor, was on the phone with her best friend, Carol. I remember it clearly. Eleanor was laughing a lot. But when she hung up, she turned to me and said, "You know, poor Carol. She's got that heartburn and backache again. Must be the stress from work." And I just nodded. We both dismissed it as nothing serious. Until that Friday night. The phone rang just past midnight. It was Carol's husband, Tom, on the other end, his voice cracking with panic. "Harold. It's Carol, she's in the ER. They think it's a heart attack." "A heart attack? How could that be? Carol is one of the most vibrant women I know. She doesn't smoke, and she's not overweight. And most importantly, she never had that classic, movie scene chest pain, clutching her heart and collapsing. The typical heart attack symptoms in women that you hear about, we didn't see any of them in Carol. All she had was indigestion, fatigue, and a dull ache in her back. Carol's story taught us a brutal truth, a truth I believe every man with a wife, a mother, or a sister, and every woman over 60, needs to know. And it's this: for women, a heart attack is a master of disguise. It rarely shows its true face. It masquerades as common ailments, as minor complaints that we so often brush aside. And that complacency, that simple act of dismissing it, is silently endangering the women we love. In today's video, I'm not just going to give you a list of symptoms. No. We're going to do something far more important. Together, we're going to unmask the 3 most dangerous imposters that a heart attack in women uses to fool all of us. We're going to understand why these symptoms are different, and how to recognize them before it's too late. And I urge you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because I'll be revealing an incredibly common symptom that 9 out of 10 women experience daily, which could actually be an early warning from a heart in distress. Knowing this could be the line between life and death. Before we dive in, I have a small question for you. Have you ever heard a woman in your family complain about symptoms like fatigue, indigestion, or back pain, and you just thought to yourself, she's probably just overworked? If you have, just leave a quick comment below saying, "I have." Don't worry, you're not alone. I was right there with you. Your honesty will help us all see just how common this blind spot is. Now, let's begin with the first imposter, the one that almost cost Carol her life. The stomach flu disguise. Alright, I want you to do something for me. Picture your medicine cabinet right now. What's in there? Some aspirin, a bottle of cough syrup, and I would bet good money that there's a box of antacids or something for indigestion, right? That small, harmless-looking box. We reach for it without a second thought whenever we feel that familiar burn of heartburn or a bit of bloating. But I want you to look at it differently from now on. For millions of women, that little box could be the evidence at the scene of a fatal mistake. The most tragic misdiagnosis they give themselves. This is the face of our first imposter. It hides behind a set of incredibly common symptoms: nausea, indigestion, heartburn, and a feeling of pain or discomfort in the upper abdomen. Let's go back to my friend, Carol. For 2 solid weeks before she was hospitalized, this was her reality. She's a woman who is very conscious about her senior health. When she felt the indigestion, she did all the right things we're taught to do. She drank ginger tea. She bought another box of Tums from the pharmacy. She started avoiding spicy foods. She thought she was solving the problem. And when her husband, Tom, would ask, "Are you okay, honey?" she'd just smile and say, "It's just my acid reflux acting up again. I must be stressed." And here's the most heartbreaking part of it all. She felt embarrassed. Embarrassed to complain about what she considered a trivial issue. She didn't want to be a bother. She's a strong woman, the one who always takes care of everyone else, and she refused to become a burden over a little bit of heartburn. That isn't just Carol's story. It's the story of our mothers, our wives, of women who are conditioned to put everyone else's needs before their own feelings. They are experiencing real heart attack symptoms, but they tell themselves it was just a greasy dinner. So, here is the million-dollar question. How can we possibly tell the difference? How do we know when it's the stomach protesting versus the heart pleading for help? This is the invisible wall that stops millions in their tracks. They feel stuck. Because the symptoms are just too similar. Their heart is screaming in silence, but all they can hear is the gurgle of their stomach. After Carol was stable, I had a very long talk with her cardiologist, Dr. Ramirez. And he gave me 2 golden keys to tell the difference. 2 questions that, from this day forward, you must ask yourself or a loved one whenever these symptoms appear. Key number 1. Does the pain travel? Dr. Ramirez explained that typical heartburn or stomach pain tends to be localized. The burning sensation stays put, right there in your chest or upper abdomen. But the discomfort from a heart attack is different. It's like an invader that doesn't sit still. It tends to radiate. It might start in your abdomen, but then you feel a dull ache creep up into your left shoulder. Or you feel a pressure in your chest that also spreads to your back, right between the shoulder blades. It can even travel up into your neck and jaw. The reason for this, as the doctor explained, is that a major nerve called the vagus nerve connects both the heart and the digestive system. When the heart is in trouble, it sends out a distress signal, but the line gets staticky, and your brain can misinterpret that signal as coming from the stomach. Key number 2, what exactly does it feel like? Close your eyes and really tune in to the sensation. Stomach pain is often described with words like burning, fiery, or acidic. But heart attack discomfort, especially in women, is often described with a completely different set of words: pressure, squeezing, tightness, or an uncomfortable fullness. One of Dr. Ramirez's patients described it as feeling like a small but very heavy rock was sitting on my chest from the inside. It doesn't have to be excruciating. It's just a pressure that doesn't belong and doesn't go away. So what's the takeaway here? From now on, when you or a woman you love complains about stomach trouble, stop asking, does it hurt a lot? Instead, ask the 2 golden questions. Does that feeling seem to be spreading anywhere else? To your shoulder, back, or jaw? Does it feel more like pressure or a squeezing sensation, even a little bit? With just those 2 questions, you've gone from being a passive bystander to an alert guardian of their heart. You're no longer being fooled by the stomach flu disguise. That's the first imposter. But our enemy is cunning. It knows that if it can't attack the body, it can attack a woman's greatest strength, her spirit. Join me as we uncover the second imposter, the one that hides behind a woman's own resilience and self-sacrifice. The stress and fatigue disguise. In every man's life, there's at least one woman like this. She's a perpetual motion machine. The first to rise and the last to sleep. The one who finishes cooking dinner, only to start cleaning the house, then checks on the grandkids' homework. They are the pillars, the ones shouldering the world for their families, and they do it with a smile. We often joke and call them superwomen. Their energy seems boundless. But that is also their most dangerous trap. Because the second imposter a heart attack uses doesn't attack their body. It attacks that very sense of sacrifice and resilience. It wears a mask called stress and fatigue. It shows up as symptoms that every modern woman has felt: profound, sudden fatigue, shortness of breath even with light activity, a sense of anxiety or unease, and sometimes, a cold sweat. How insidious are these symptoms? Let's go back to Carol. When her husband, Tom, was recounting the story to us, he said there was one time Carol felt so exhausted she couldn't even make the walk from the car into the grocery store. She had to sit in the car for a few minutes just to catch her breath. And what did she tell herself in that moment? She didn't think, something is wrong with my heart. She thought, wow, I must be getting old, or work has been so stressful lately. She normalized it. She accepted that exhaustion was a non-negotiable part of her life, of her age. And this is where the tragedy begins to creep in. In a world where everyone is busy, where everyone complains about being tired, how are we supposed to know the difference between the fatigue of a long day and the fatigue of a heart that is being starved of oxygen? How can we know if that shortness of breath is from stress, or from an artery that is slowly closing up? This is the question that causes millions of women to ignore the most critical warnings from their own bodies. They've become so accustomed to being tired that they no longer recognize a different kind of tired, red alert kind of tired. I brought this very dilemma to Dr. Ramirez. And his answer completely changed how I look at the word fatigue. He said, "Harold, you don't need to be a doctor to tell the difference. You just need to look for 3 key distinctions. Distinction number 1, the suddenness. Normal fatigue usually comes on gradually. You feel your energy waning at the end of the day. But cardiac-related fatigue is different. It's like someone suddenly pulls the plug. You're feeling perfectly fine one moment, and then, boom, an inexplicable sense of exhaustion washes over you. Distinction number 2, the disproportionality. This is the key. You feel wiped out, but that feeling is completely out of proportion to the activity you just did. You walk to the mailbox, but you feel like you just ran a marathon. You climb 1 flight of stairs, but you're gasping for air like you just summited Mount Everest. Your body is overreacting, and it's because the heart is struggling to do its basic job of pumping blood. And the third, most important distinction, it doesn't improve with rest. You can get a full 8 hours of sleep, but you wake up still feeling drained. A cup of coffee doesn't fix it. A relaxing afternoon doesn't recharge your batteries. That fatigue is still there, persistent and heavy. That's because the problem isn't with your energy, it's with your supply line, your circulatory system. From that day on, I learned an invaluable lesson. Our bodies, and especially the bodies of the incredible women around us, are always talking to us. That kind of profound fatigue isn't a sign of weakness. It's a signal. It's a whisper. And if we ignore that whisper for too long, it will become a scream. My advice to you is this: trust your body. If it is yelling at you that it is unreasonably exhausted, don't use a cup of coffee to silence that yell. Listen to it. We've unmasked 2 of our enemies. But there is one more, one that disguises itself as the everyday aches and pains we blame on age and a desk job. Join me as we expose the final impostor. Raise your hand if you've ever woken up with an ache in your shoulder or neck and the first thing you thought was, "Damn, I must have slept on it wrong." I know, we've all been there. It's almost a reflex. We feel a pain in a muscle, and our brain immediately looks for a logical explanation. We overdid it at the gym, we sat at a desk all day, we lifted something heavy. What do? We put a heat pack on it. We ask our spouse for a back rub. We blame our age, our job, our old mattress. We do everything except consider that the ache in our shoulder blade might be a heart attack symptom. This is the most cunning impostor of all, because it uses our logic against us. It puts on the mask of pain in the upper back, shoulders, neck, or even the jaw. When we sat with Carol after she was out of the woods, she told us that one of the most persistent symptoms she'd ignored was a dull ache right between my shoulder blades. She had gone for massages. She had bought a new pillow. She was convinced it was a skeletal issue, an unavoidable part of managing her senior health. How could she have thought otherwise? Why would a heart, in trouble in the front of your chest, cause pain way around in your back? It's completely illogical. It goes against everything we're taught. And that very illogical nature is where this enemy hides. It sends us down the wrong path. It makes us focus on treating our back, while our heart is the thing that's on fire. I was just as confused until Dr. Ramirez explained to me a fascinating medical phenomenon called referred pain. He explained it like this, and I found it incredibly easy to grasp. imagine your nervous system is like a large apartment building with a complex wiring system. The wires from different compartments, like the heart, the back, the shoulder, the arm, sometimes run through the same large conduit on their way up to the central management office in the brain. When the heart apartment has a problem and sends a distress signal, fire, that signal travels through the shared conduit. When it gets to the management office, the brain receives the emergency alert, but because the wiring gets jumbled, it might mistakenly think the signal is coming from the back apartment or the shoulder apartment. And so, the brain tells you that you feel pain in your back when the real problem is in your heart. Your heart is screaming, but you're only hearing its echo somewhere else. This is one of the most dangerous heart attack symptoms in women, precisely because it's so easy to dismiss, especially for women, who often have a higher pain tolerance and are more prone to chronic aches in their back and neck from work and family life. So, what is the final lesson here? It's a new rule we all have to remember, a new muscle type pain that doesn't have a clear cause. You didn't go to the gym, you didn't fall. And especially if it doesn't get better with rest or changing positions, needs to be taken extremely seriously. Stop blaming the mattress. Stop blaming the way you slept. Take 1 second and ask yourself, could this just be a signal that got sent to the wrong address? We've now unmasked all 3 imposters. The 3 masks a heart attack can wear to deceive us. This knowledge is crucial. But knowledge is useless if we don't turn it into a plan of action. In our final segment, we'll talk about Carol's recovery, and more importantly, the battle plan you can put into use starting today to protect the incredible women in your life. Knowledge, if it just stays in your head, is like a life jacket locked away in a cabinet while you're struggling in the water. It's there, it's valuable, but it's completely useless. Throughout this video, we've unmasked 3 dangerous enemies together. We've armed ourselves with knowledge. But now, this is the most important part. How do we get that life jacket out of the cabinet and use it to save a life? The answer begins with a piece of good news. My friend, Carol, she's back home. She's out of the woods. Eleanor and I went to visit her last week. She was sitting there, on her familiar sofa, a little thinner, perhaps, but her eyes were brighter than I've ever seen them. She took my wife's hand and said something I will never forget. Eleanor, she said, I've realized something. The greatest gift this heart attack gave me wasn't fear, it was gratitude. Gratitude that I'm still here, gratitude that Tom called 911 in time, and gratitude that my body tried to warn me, even if I was too foolish to listen. Her story had a happy ending because, even though it was late, they took action. But we all know there are so many stories out there that don't have that same luck. So many what-ifs and if-onlys filled with regret. I don't want anyone watching this to go through that feeling. I don't want you to have to ask yourself, why didn't I recognize the heart attack symptoms in women sooner? So, I did something. I sat down, I compiled everything Dr. Ramirez shared, everything we've learned today, and I created something that I believe every single family should have. It's a simple checklist, a battle plan I'm calling Beyond Chest Pain, a Woman's Guide to Heart Attack Symptoms. It's not a complicated medical document. It's just 1 page, summarizing the 3 imposters and the golden questions you need to ask to tell the difference. You can download it, completely free, by clicking the first link in the description below. And here is my plea to you, don't just download it for yourself. Print it out. Put it on your refrigerator door. Email it to your wife, your mother, your sisters, your best friends. Make this small action an act of love. Because when a moment of panic hits, no one can think clearly. But a piece of paper on the fridge can be a lighthouse in the storm. It can be the one thing that reminds you to ask the right question at the most critical time. Your knowledge from today, combined with this tool, is that life jacket. And our journey doesn't stop here. Our greatest strength comes from sharing. Have you or a loved one ever experienced these atypical symptoms? Your experience, no matter how small, is an invaluable lesson. Please, share your story in the comments below, so we can build a wiser, more vigilant community together. And don't forget to join our Healthy Hearts with Harold Facebook group to connect with and support each other on this path. Remember, the purpose of this video and of the Senior Health Stories channel is not to spread fear. Our purpose is to light a fire of awareness, understanding, and action. Thank you for spending your time with me today. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe so you don't miss our next story, and hit that notification bell. Stay healthy, and more importantly, stay guardian to the precious hearts around you.